Today I will be showing you how to fix a 13 Pro Max screen. This 13 Pro Max screen was ran over by a truck, and customer stated that he wants the cheapest screen to be able to recover all his information. So we're beginning with these two screws down below to be able to pry off the screen. Now that both screws are out, we're going to be able to grab our tool to be able to open up the screen. So push it all the way in there. And then to make it easier to pry open the screen, we'll use a little bit of alcohol. Sometimes it is a little bit harder to be able to pry it open, probably because it's all cracked. So now we're going to use our guitar pick. Once we're able to get that in just a little tad bit, we'll be able to slide it all the way down. We're going to go on the sides. You don't want to go too far in because there is Face ID cables and certain cables you don't want to snap. So there we go. Pry it all the way down. You're going to do that the same thing on the other side as well. You just want to continue to do it on the sides. Make sure not too far in. And this job, honestly, since the screen is so shattered, there's a lot of pieces of glass going everywhere. They could potentially get into your eyes. So I do have safety glasses on to not get pieces of glass in my eye. Sometimes when it's not coming, you got to pry up a little bit, and then you can just slide all the way down. Just keep spinning the phone. Once you get to the top, you want to be very careful because the camera is right in the middle. So once you got the guitar pick pried all around, you're going to want to make sure to open it from the right side. Once the phone is open, I'll be using this tool that I bought. You basically put it in the charging port. It connects to the charging port and then basically helps you hold up the screen and make the job easier while you're unscrewing screws. So now that the phone is open, you're going to be using two different bits. So for this metal plate right here, underneath we got the screen cable and we got the battery cable as well. So you're going to want to remove 3 of those screws. So now we're removing those screws. You got one more screw to go. You're going to want to be careful and make sure that you're taking your time. That way you do not end up puncturing the battery. So now that you have that removed, there's a second plate up top. Underneath is the ear speaker / proximity sensor. There's 4 screws on that. So you're going to be using 2 different bits for this. So we got this last screw up top. Once that one's removed, you want to carefully remove that metal plate because you could rip that little connector right there. Very easy to snap. So now you want to use a little prier tool to disconnect the battery. Then we're going to follow with the screen cable as well. Be careful because you could ruin the little teeth. And now we remove the Face ID / ear speaker connector. And the screen should pop off right off. So this is what it looks like with the screen off. Not all cables are removed. This is what the phone looks like without the screen. So now we're gonna start with the screen. We're gonna take off the proximity sensor. Basically, this is the ear speaker / Face ID. So there's 3 screws on this metal plate as well. You're gonna be very careful because if you're in a hurry, you can possibly puncture that black strip right there. So I'm gonna continue taking off those screws. Got one more screw here. After that 3rd screw, we're gonna wanna remove that metal plate. You need to be very, very careful when you're unscrewing these because you could puncture the Face ID. So now that the metal plate is off, we're gonna put a little bit of alcohol underneath so it's easier for it to come off. It has adhesive underneath, and we are using the same prying tool in the beginning when we took off those 2 screws in the beginning, and we pushed this all the way down to be able to get the screen off. So it's very easy put a little bit of alcohol. You want to be very, very careful. You could always heat it up as well. So you need to be careful when you're trying to remove this, because definitely the adhesive is very strong. So take your time, because once this is ripped, the Face ID will no longer work. So you got to keep going all the way around. Just be very, very careful. Take your time, because this is a very, very big step. If not, you're not going to end up having Face ID, and the customer will be mad. So we're still taking our time. Definitely don't want to ruin it. Just go at your own pace. Steady, steady, steady. Keep going. You need to be careful once you get to those two ribbons right there. And just pry your prying tool to the side so it's a lot easier to be able to take it off. So now we finished right there. So we're going to be very, very careful around these two. I'm going to put a little bit more alcohol so it's easier for the adhesive underneath to be able to come off. So you want to disconnect this little piece as well. You need to be careful. You can use a prying tool, but you got to be very, very careful. So now you just keep going underneath. It should come out a little bit easier. You're going to pull just a little bit. You don't want to pull too hard for the other connector, because it could snap. So now that it is off, that is the ear/speaker proximity sensor. Now that one is going to be transferred onto the new screen. So this screen is pretty much trash. So now I'm going to be taking off the water seal. So this prevents the water to get wet inside. Once the screen is replaced, it could potentially get in there easier, especially with removing the screen and changing the screen. So we're going to change the water seal and put a new one in. And we got to scrape all this off. Make sure that everything is completely clean. That way when we lay down the new water seal in the screen, everything sits nice. So we're going to continue to be scraping that all off around the phone. And then once you're done with that, you're going to want to use like a little brush or anything that you want. Put a little bit of alcohol around. That way it's very, very smooth and clean. And you get everything off. You're going to want to do that to every corner. Make sure you get it good enough. Now we're going to use this little duster removal to get all the dirt and stuff out. So make sure it's dry. So now we're going to put the phone down now that it's completely dry and the old adhesive is off. Now we're going to take this plastic off of the new screen. So now we are going to put the proximity sensor on the screen. We're going to put it back where those little 3 holes go. You want to make sure that you adjust it perfectly. So now that it is on, you're going to push it down a little bit to make sure everything fell back in place. So now we're going to put the 3 screws back with the metal bracket. So now we are going to use the dust removal to make sure we get any dust or anything around the edges so we can apply the water seal. Once you put that down, you're going to want to go around the edges and smooth it out. Push it all the way down. Make sure the water seal sits nice and smooth. That way the screen sits nice and smooth as well. Now after that is done, you're going to want to take the little tab and pull it. That way you can get rid of the top plastic. So now you can see the adhesive on the sides. Looks smooth, very clean on the sides as well. So now that that is done, we're going to, lastly but not least, we're going to put the screen on. Gotta start off with the proximity sensor. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get it in there. You're not gonna wanna press down too hard, just, you'll hear like a little snap a little bit. So after that one is placed in, we're gonna move down to the screen cable. Make sure you line that well, because you can mess up the little teeth where the connectors go. So once that one's on, we're gonna go down below and click down the battery cable. So now everything's back in place. All the cables that were disconnected in the beginning are back on. So now we're gonna test the screen. So now that I tested out the screen, the touch seems to be working great. So now we're gonna start with the metal plate again and put all screws back in. So now that that is done, we got the last metal plate that has 3 screws. So now that everything is back to normal, has the plates, the cables are connected, we're using the dust removal once again, make sure everything's out of the phone. You're gonna wanna carefully push down on the top a little bit. You don't want to press too hard because you definitely can break the screen. So you're going to want to put the top first, and then you're going to work your way down. So go around the corners and press gently around each side. That way the screen lays flat down. You want to make sure not to press too hard, because obviously you could definitely crack the screen. And that's the last thing that you want to do after doing all this repair. Last but not least, we got the last 2 bottom screws. You want to make sure not to tighten them too much, because you can definitely strip them out. So we're going to grab the other one. So that definitely completes the screen repair. So now we're going to test the screen once again, charge it up a little bit. Seems to be turning on great. Now we're going to try out the screen, and everything seems to be working fine. If you want more repairs like this, like and comment. Thank you for watching.